Over the past week, the currents of the global economy have shifted in a way that reveals deeper tectonic forces at play. The dollar, that stubbornly strong currency, has surged to levels not seen in a generation, its muscularity reasserting America's primacy in a world increasingly adrift. Across the Atlantic, the engine of European unity, the euro, has been battered by this rising greenback tide. The once proud British pound sterling has also been pulled under, the lingering effects of that nation's fractured decision to leave the EU dragging it into deeper waters of economic uncertainty. But it is the rapid descent of the Japanese yen that is perhaps the most striking example of the vast divergences opening up across the financial map. The yen has plummeted to lows not witnessed since the waning days of the Cold War, sparking murmurs of potential interventions from Tokyo. At the molten core of these disruptive currency movements is a fundamental schism in the economic policies now guiding the developed world's great powers. In the aftermath of the pandemic's disruptions, the United States has embarked upon a monetary policy brutally tight, jacking up interest rates to subdue the inflation threat. Meanwhile, the European Central Bank and Bank of Japan have remained wedded to looser money, fearful that aggressive rate hikes could snuff out the economic recovery. Britain stands somewhere in between, neither fully committed hawk nor dove. This cacophony of central bank voices seems destined to fuel further volatility in the months ahead, as Fed Chair Jerome Powell and his colleagues on the Open Market Committee hold firm to their inflation-fighting course. Expectations have begun building that American borrowing costs may remain elevated even as central bankers in Europe and Japan start cutting rates. The result is the perfect kindling for a sustained dollar rally. When U.S. yields remain relatively high and stable compared to the plunging yields abroad, a powerful gravitational force inevitably draws capital toward America's money. And so, the greenback gallops ever higher, trampling over the world's other major currencies with the force of Secretariat thundering down the stretch at the Belmont Stakes. Of course, there are dangers in such rampant dollar strength. U.S. exporters find their products increasingly uncompetitive on global markets. Multinational firms see overseas earnings evaporate when converted back into the swollen American tender. And developing nations find their dollar-denominated debts rapidly swelling in value, heightening the risks of payments crises. Yet for the political tribes squabbling along the Acela corridor and the Beltway, a newly muscular dollar may be seen as a welcome projection of American economic potency, a tangible rebuke to declinist narratives around a nation in inevitable eclipse. In the deepest recesses of their America First IDs, the economic nationalists likely exult at the thought of the world conforming to the dollar's dictates once more, the virtuous cycle of capital inflows and rising yields burnishing U.S. financial hegemony. Just don't mention the risks of deglobalization. For the dwindling band of cosmopolitan internationalists, the unwinding policy divergence sows angst. They fret over the strains on America's strategic alliances and the threat to an integrated global system that has, at its best, elevated all nations under a unified economic order. They warn, rightly, that the coming currency tumult may generate destructive beggar-thy-neighbor devaluations, a race that no one ultimately wins. Yet their well-intentioned calls for coordination and cooperation seem increasingly drowned out by the nationalistic rumblings engulfing Western capitals. Into this vortex of clashing economic dogmas and revanchist power impulses, the world now descends. The dollar rides high, its supremacy reaffirmed through the brute force of financial physics. But at what cost to the fading liberal economic order? The gravitational shifts, now underway in the currency cosmos, speak to the deepening fissures in an increasingly fractured world. With each daily price quote marking the dollar's ascent, a sterner truth is signaled that for an interconnected globe entering a new era of adversity, the centrifugal forces of discord have rarely felt so strong.